Well, the Finance Minister also pointed out major shortfalls in tax revenue that have been caused by the lockdown. Edward Kiswetter is the SARS Commissioner. He joins us now tonight to talk about that supplementary budget. Mr. Kiswetter, it's a pleasure to have you on News at Prime. A 300 billion rand deficit, I believe, of revenue collection this year. Is that anywhere in line with what you had already been projecting?
Yes, Cathy, good evening. I think you would recall that our initial estimate was in the high 200s. We said around about 285. Clearly, as the whole situation has developed, we are now able to pencil in the 300 billion shortfall. What we are already seeing is that if you just compare the shortfall relative to the printed estimate, we are down, as of yesterday, 54 billion, which is 34% down. And against prior year, we have contracted by 22%. The main contributors to that has been pay as you earn, which is down by some 12 billion in terms of growth, as well as domestic VAT, which is down by just over 10 billion, and customs VAT a further 11 billion. So we see in the areas that reflect both the consumption in the economy as well as the labor component in the economy already significantly showing contraction. Our main concern is the loss of jobs and the fact that some businesses may not come back. We're already seeing over almost 80,000 retrenchments in South Africa just for the period during COVID. And a further of companies applying for liquidations or for business rescue.
There'd been a lot of talk, especially by some economists, about how this budget could very well include some changes to the tax mechanism and the tax regime, perhaps seeing some products being taxed a bit more just to try and make up for the shortfall. Is that at all something that you would have wanted to see?
Look, tax policy is ultimately a national treasury. For tax policy reviews happen in February next year, to the extent that the minister may deem it necessary. But for now, the minister has given a clear indication that he wants to follow generally international best trends as far as that's concerned. What we have done is to say, what can we do to close, from our perspective, the jaws, as the minister referred to it as, of the hippopotamus. And there are 5 areas where we believe we can still improve revenue collection to decrease the shortfall between expenditure and revenue. The first is just, we have seen a decline in general compliance, and we believe we need to focus and encourage taxpayers to file on time and to pay monies that are due. The second is, we still see some aggressive tax planning, particularly by wealthy individuals, as well as large businesses in areas such as offshore structuring and assets offshore that's not fully disclosed. We see a lot of base erosion effects from taxpayers that we need to pay attention to. And then, sadly, the criminal and illicit activities have proliferated. We see even during this period syndicated fraud in areas of VAT and significant abuse of misdeclaring values of imported goods to escape customs duty. SARS itself, we are working hard to expand the use of data and artificial intelligence to help us to detect areas of non-compliance. And then a huge focus on collecting the debt that is due to the fiscus. So we've identified a number of very key areas to focus on, notwithstanding the revenue decline, to ensure that we at least ensure that the revenue that is due to the fiscus is in the contracting economy.
How much of the lockdown, and especially when we look at some of the customs tax, has actually resulted in lower revenue collection? And do you think that getting back online, the world finally moving more freely again, will change that situation? And does that offer a silver lining at all?
So there's definitely been a huge impact. We have seen, as I said, the loss of jobs, and that is reflected in many companies not paying any or less pay as you earn than they did in the same period for last year. We also see consumption being down. Remember, in the first, under lockdown 5, there was in fact a significant contraction of consumption. And we see that in the 16% year-on-year decline in VAT. As far as specific excise duties are concerned, we have seen a contraction of almost 80% because of the banning of certain excisable goods, and we've seen that on a year-on-year decline. In total, we have seen an under-recovery of 11 billion compared to prior on excise duties. So definitely, during the lockdown, we have seen the impact. Bigger concern is that some of the businesses and jobs that have been lost may not return in the foreseeable future.
Sure.